one of the kind of tenets of the counterculture was kind of the freedom of sex, and
right.
partly brought on, of course, by the pill, which was a very liberating force in the 60s. What did you think about that when you saw young kids?
Well, there again, you see, I'm from a different time and day, not much far removed from these kids, but still a different time and day. And I couldn't believe it. To me, it was like shocking in a way. Even though I'm a man, you know, they say a man doesn't care as much as a woman and all this. But still, it was unreal to believe that this was going on.
Excuse me, could you start all that and say what it is you're referring to?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I forget to. Now, you talk about the sexual revolution, if you want to call it that. It was kind of shocking to me that all these things were going on, because my time of day, this was unheard of. You know, you didn't talk about these things. Like, I used to kid around. I used to say I was 22 years old before I found out a prophylactic wasn't a toothbrush. And, you know, we knew, but not like the kids were practicing what we knew, so to speak. And I guess they had grown one step, you know, each generation goes one step beyond the next. So maybe that was their way of, you know, going one step beyond us in one thing. And, of course, it shocked people in my category, you know, in age and everything. And it shocked most of us, but some of them even fell in with it. Some of the older people even fell in with it a little bit. I don't say completely, but a little bit. Must be because even the senior citizens were living together to keep the Social Security checks coming in. So they fell in with it real easy in a way. They had a reason, you see. But it's no good. I mean, it's too loose, and too many things can happen. A lot of children are born out of wedlock, and the guy takes off and goes Christ knows where, and the girl's left with the problem with the kid. Now, next thing you know, she can't make it in this world for some reason. She's not equipped with any kind of technical skills or anything to make a living, real good living anyway. So what happens? She falls into the what do you call it? The framework of dependency on the government and everything. And so what happens? We're paying for it in the tax structure, see? So I don't know. It's not good for a lot of other reasons, too. It's not moral. I mean, if you're a religious person, it's not moral. I'm not the greatest religious person, but I still say it's not moral. I mean, I wouldn't want to see my daughter pregnant, not married. I don't guess anybody would.
What about your daughter living with somebody and not married?
I don't like that either. I just, see, I wasn't born. I'm not up with this sort of thing now. The kids all do it. Not all, but a lot of them do it. They live with each other and everything, and even in colleges, the dorms are co-ed and all that sort of thing. It's just strange to me because I wasn't brought up that way. I was brought up, the boys stayed here, the girls stayed there, you know what I mean? I mean, that was it. If you wanted to take a girl out, you take a girl out. You want to go dancing, you go take a girl out and everything. But you didn't live with them. I don't know of any guy in my crowd that ever lived with a girl, really, in their 20s. Most of us were in our 20s and everything, and most of us got married about the same time. And we just never thought about things like that. And forbid, like, one night I got caught in a snowstorm over my wife. She was my fiancée at the time. Got caught over her house in a terrible snowstorm. Well, they had to put me up overnight. So I slept in the attic by myself, up in an attic. I didn't hear the end of it for 2 months. Everybody said I was sleeping with my wife in her room, you know, something like that. But, you know, it just, that's the way things were in those days. That was a scandal already. You know, everybody thought, man, this guy's terrible, you know what I mean? But now they don't even talk about it. It doesn't even bother anybody. I noticed the guys, some of the younger guys down at the company that drive the cabs, they talk about living with this girl and that girl, and, you know, they get phone messages. Joanne says, call home right away. Now, Joanne, normally you'd say your wife said to call home. They said Joanne said to call home. So that's not his wife, you see. You can pick that up real quick. And they're all doing it. So I don't know. It just, I guess that started it off in those days, and it just led up till today. And like I say, even the senior citizens have gotten into the act. Theirs might be a little different reason, but they're still in the act. You know, they figure, well, the youngsters are getting away with it. We can do it too. You know, nobody will talk. And everybody excuses them because they feel sorry for them because they'd have to give up one Social Security check. So everybody gives them that excuse, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I just couldn't do it. And I wouldn't want to see my daughters doing it either, really.
You, you know, you grew up in the 50s, or you were a young man.
In my 20s, yeah.
And now we're about to hit the 90s. I mean, What do you think about the different country you see today, from what life and values and expectations were in the 50s, and what kind of way we live today?
Well, in the 50s, we had big ideas, you know, that people were coming out of the war in the early 50s. And they were primarily coming out of the war and depression all at once. See, because the depression was still going on when the war started. But people made some money during the war. They were able to buy homes, and the government came up with the GI loan and that sort of thing for the veterans, and they bought a lot of homes. So it started giving everybody a lift, and people weren't so downtrodden. Then people start working on their kids, go to school, and, you know, get an education, you can do this, and all the kids went to school. School was cheap in those days. You can get in a lot of good colleges, reasonable, you know, and all. And everybody had expectations they were going to set the world on fire. I mean, I was going to right everything that was wrong. There wasn't anything that I wasn't going to set straight. But you soon learn as you go along that it just doesn't work that easy. There's always those politicians right in your way that are going to stop it and put an end to it for some reason or another. I don't know what their reason is or what the cause is, you know, why they do it, but it seems that they all do it. They put the skids on everything that's good a lot of times. I don't say everything, but...
Is that how you feel about politics today?
I'll tell you the truth, I wouldn't look at a politician from 5 feet away. I don't want to get that close to a politician at 5 feet. I just don't like him. I don't trust him. I don't have the confidence in him that I once had years ago. Today, we're getting too many scandals with these guys. I never heard of these kind of scandals years ago. Maybe they were better at hiding it in those days than they are today. And don't forget, the media today is so much faster than it used to be. We've got television that, just like that, you've got all the news you want. And they catch these people. And they got people out on the street to catch these people. The thing I don't understand about certain politicians, why they even want to be politicians. You take, a good example would be a guy like Rockefeller. Why did he want to be a politician? The guy had everything in this world. Maybe it's an ego trip, maybe it's power, maybe it's prestige to go along with what he already had. But he really doesn't need it. The Kennedys don't need it. I mean, you know, it's just odd the way that we get our politicians, where they come from. I think in the Congress, I don't know what the percentage is, but it must be around 80 or 90% of them are lawyers. And they claim that you have to be a lawyer to be in Congress to figure out the laws and so forth. I still maintain that we should have a better cross-section of the people in Congress, that we should have more diversified type occupations representing the people in the country. I mean, I don't see any carpenters up in Congress. I don't see any cab drivers up there, that's for sure. And I think they could be taught to handle the routine of Congress and everything, maybe with a little more practical sense, too. And see, the original forefathers, when you look at their occupations, they were what? Farmers, mechanics, doctor here and there, and different things like that. But they were well diverse. A few ministers of different faiths. They were scattered out. You know, it was more of a broad section of the population. And now they're all lawyers, and lawyers think in terms of law and legality and they make everything so complicated. And I think that's the trouble with some of our laws. They're so complicated we can't figure them out. You need another lawyer to figure out what the other lawyers are doing.
Let me ask you this. Do you see any ways that any effects of the 60s on us today, the kind of country we are today? What kind of legacy do you see it's left?
I'll be honest with you, I don't see any legacy that they did leave. I mean, the 60s, they had their controversy, but I think basically all it centered around was the Vietnamese War. I honestly believe that. That was the whole crux of the thing at that time. And they made up all their folk music and all the other things that they did. It all centered around that Vietnamese War. They didn't want to go in the Army or the Navy, whatever it might have been. But these guys, the men, didn't want to go into service, which, like I say, I can't blame them in a way because it was a lousy war. We shouldn't have been in it. But I think that's what the crux of the 60s was about. As far as leaving us anything today, I don't think they left us a thing but memories, that we remember all these things. Woodstock, like I said before, that was played up big, and I think they just had the anniversary of it or something like that. And, I mean, what was it? I mean, it's just a good party. It was like a big party for a lot of them. And that doesn't leave any legacy. I mean, that's not a legacy to me. A legacy is when Franklin Roosevelt devised the Social Security Act. That's a legacy. He handed something down to the next generations. And you have something concrete that, you can hold on to. But I don't see where the 60s were a big thing for legacies, to hand down to this generation or this time and day. I just don't see it. I don't see anything that shows today from that period.
Looking back on it from today, I mean, do you see the 60s as just kind of a time of youthful folly and experimentation, or can you see some good parts of it too? I mean,
well, I see the kids really were intelligent kids. They weren't dummies. Don't get me wrong. I mean, a lot of them were in colleges and things, going to school. But they were out for a good time, a lot of them. I mean, just like any college kid. What do they used to go to Fort Lauderdale in the spring break, and they'd tear the place apart. That's a lark, you know what I mean? But some of them were on that. But they were intelligent enough to know what they were doing, a lot of them. And they had their leaders. What was it, the Chicago 7, was that one bunch or something? I forgot all their names. And Hoffman, and that's the name that sticks out for some reason, Abbie Hoffman, but I think he was just in the news recently, maybe that's what it is. But these people, they were the leaders, leading the troops on. And the troops were like cannon fodder, they just went anywhere they were told for the most part. And they're the ones that got it bad, and then the leaders, nothing happened to these guys. They went to jail, some of them, but yeah, what's there to going to jail nowadays? You go to a country club up north somewhere, and they stick you up there with guys used to be like Hoffman, them people. They don't do time. They pass time away in jail, you see. And these guys, nothing happened. And like I say, it didn't carry on to another generation or anything. The only thing it carried on maybe is that some of the kids today still like to dress goofy like that. I call it goofy because I can't stand to see a kid with hair straight up in the air, painted pink, purple, and blue. I mean, I don't know what that means. And I might be a little jealous because I don't have that much hair, too. I mean, that might be one of the reasons. But, no, I don't think it left anything for this generation. I see this generation of young people being a little different. I see them taking more of an active part in what's going on. They're not as sloppy as those kids were. They have better ideals about what they want to do with their lives. They seem to be aiming somewhere for the most part. I think these kids today are doing a lot better than they did in the 60s, really. So I don't see anything left over from the 60s that will affect these kids.
Okay.
That's it?
That's it.